I recently broke up with my long-term girlfriend, and while I'm still feeling a little bit raw about that, my question has to do with learning how to feel comfortable being alone. I've only been single for a handful of weeks in the last 5 years. I'm 25, and I think it has to do with the realization that I came to through counseling that I'm a person that tends to derive my self-worth from what others think of me. Because of this, I'm a people pleaser, often finding myself the mediator amongst friend groups, and if someone is upset with me, I obsess about it and work extremely hard to get them to forgive me. My main question is, how do I learn to care less about what others think of me and learn to stop deriving my self-worth from a significant other, friends, or family? P.S. Do you have any advice on how to keep dating casual? I want to remain single for a while, but whenever I go on dates, I guess I give women boyfriend vibes as they usually want to progress our casual dating into a serious long-term relationship, and I have a tough time letting them down.
I'm not surprised with the people pleasing that those two go hand in hand.
I will answer that last question.
So, do you want to start from the back?
No, you can start from the front.
So these are, you know, what's funny? If you'd asked me these questions 3 years ago, I would have more tactical, faster answers, which were less long-lasting. And I feel like I want to give you both.
Yeah.
And then what I suspect is the longer-lasting answer is the same thing that I'm saying, which is this introspective work. That's why I made Emotional Mastery. I think that it addresses, if not solves, a lot of these issues.
But what's the shortcut?
The first things, people-pleasing. This is very similar to what I answered for the last question. Phase 1 is behavioral, external, changing. 6 pillars of self-esteem can be really good for that, because what you'll find is that there's exercises, sentence completions in there that encourage you to reflect on your day and ask, if I had 5% more integrity, what would I have done? And you'll be like, if I had 5% more integrity, I would have said no when that person asked me to do this because I didn't want to. And in doing those exercises and every day writing down and having something stare back at you, that will encourage you to subtly shift your behaviors in a way that boosts that self-esteem and creates a positive feedback loop.
And it's very powerful. I know it's just sounds like it's just a book. It's why we quit our jobs. Mm-hmm. It's why we moved to Brazil. It's
Those sentence completions.
Every single day was, if I had 5% more integrity, what would I have done? I wouldn't have gone to a job that I hated. Yeah. I would have done something I cared about. And you write it down for 2 weeks straight. You're like, I got to change something because you get a recurring answer to all these different exercises that are in the book. So I know it sounds like, oh, what can a book do for me? But it will have a powerful impact on your life.
Yes. So that's the first one. Again, there's a phase 1, phase 2 sort of thing to this that's at work. And I think that will help a lot with people pleasing, is to focus on behaviors. But of course, the behavior is merely the symptom of something that is growing out of a root. And at the risk of beating a dead horse, I think the counseling that you're doing is a great idea. One of the things that I've recently done, and I'm always loath to share things that are recent because I don't know how long lasting or if they work, but it seems promising, is, I'm going to screw the name up. The type of parts integration / family behavioral therapy. I forget what it's called. Family behavioral parts therapy. I'll try to get the correct name. But it's generally the idea that we internalize our families such that we have an internal mother and an internal father. And that it's really not your mom yelling at you or your dad yelling at you that you need to fit into the family and be pleasing that is guiding you. It's your sense of that person that is now part of you. That's that inner voice which you think is yours that is steering the ship in many cases. So that can be useful for unpacking some of that kind of stuff. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse. Psychedelics are powerful when you come in with these kinds of intentions. So step 1, behavior. 6 pillars of self-esteem. Start making subtle changes. Long-term, keep up with the therapy. Maybe check out our Emotional Mastery course. It's not a substitute for therapy. I do think that there's something really valuable about the customized interaction. But what I've tried to do is scale the last several years of the best exercises, advice, things that have stuck with me, and put it into a format that in 24 days you can see growth in these types of areas.
Mm-hmm. Can you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Well, there was the last.
Yeah, no, one. I'll handle that. But I'm just curious because I know it was a long question. He says he's feeling lonely.
Well, what I was focusing on, I guess, was the people pleasing. So I might.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So can we run through the question again?
Yeah. So recently broke up with my long-term girlfriend. Still feeling a little bit raw about that. I want to know how to feel comfortable being alone. I've only been single for a handful of weeks in the last 5 years. I'm 25. Mm-hmm. And through counseling, I realize I'm a person that tends to derive my self-worth from what others think of me. Because of that, I'm a people pleaser, and if someone's upset, I obsess about it and work extremely hard to get them to forgive me.
Yeah, I know the piece I missed, the lonely piece.
Yeah,
I'll say one thing to this. For the loneliness, I find what can be useful if you do emotional mastery. I think it's day 3, the inner child stuff. Very, very useful. But essentially, if you're going to skip that and just watch this, what I would say is to sit down quietly, take several deep breaths, calm yourself down, and say, what kind of special attention that I'm seeking can I give myself? And what you will find oftentimes is that these childish things come up, like I want a bath, or like I want to watch a fun movie, or I want to play video games, or I want to eat junk food tonight and not do anything. And that companionship with yourself, the willingness to like slow down and be like, okay, if I loved myself, what kind of nice thing could I do alone with myself? Then seeing what comes back and finding an answer that you are capable of, whether it's the junk food or the video game or the bath or setting up a nice massage for yourself, that will often help a lot with the loneliness. What I found in my loneliness, one of the big things was that it was only with women in particular that I allowed myself the luxury of not working and of stopping to think about work. So that was what came up for me, is like, I just want you to stop beating me up. It's like, I want to be off the clock. I want to, play video games and goof around.
So I want to hop in and nuance that a little bit. So I think I'm going to simplify the world, even though it's not true. There's basically like 2 types of people, right? There's these type A overachiever. I calendarize my workouts. I have meal plans it's like broccoli and chicken every day. And oftentimes, to Charlie's point, what you like about the relationship is it lets you have ice cream in bed, play a video game, watch a movie, so you can satiate part of what you liked about that companionship was just cutting yourself some slack. There is another person who eats ice cream all the time, plays video games all the time, and maybe even with your girlfriend, you still ate ice cream all the time and played video games all the time, but that's not going to be your route out. For that person, what you might need is more self-worth, which ultimately will not come from the external world. It will come internally, but a very quick way to at least get out of that loneliness and have some more respect for yourself is to go the other way, is to get to the gym, start a side hustle, do something that makes you proud of who you are as a man. And so I think it really depends where you're at. And so if you are someone who's working out, eating clean, and beating yourself up every time you make a mistake, then be gentle on yourself. If you're someone who doesn't hold yourself to a very high standard, weirdly enough, pushing yourself to do things that are hard, that you're proud of yourself for afterwards, will make you like yourself more, hold yourself in higher esteem, and that will make you feel less lonely because you will like who you are. Does that make sense? And
I think get quiet. Don't go with your thing. Like, get quiet. Take those deep breaths and be like, which of these directions is the one that I need right now? And see what comes back. And to Ben's point, depending on where you're starting, the answer might be
complete opposites.
Totally different than what I did.
Second thing, this is again like ultimately deeper answers, but for your loneliness, for myself, I went through a breakup once where I knew that I wanted to break up with the woman, but I missed her tremendously afterwards. And the reason was I had texted her every day for 4 years while we were dating. And so anything would happen. I'd have something funny to share. I'd get in like a little tiff with my boss and I wanted to vent. My instinct was to reach for my phone and text her. And then what I'd end up doing is looking at my phone, missing her. And what I found is that I could diversify those messages, which is to say no one wanted to get 12 texts from me in a day. But I could send 1 to my sister, 1 to my dad, 1 to Charlie, maybe 3 to Charlie, let's say. And I know that sounds like a very superficial quick fix, but in the moments immediately after a breakup, it's incredibly helpful because you don't feel that hole in your life so much because there's not this absence of communication relating that you used to have. You know what I mean? You used to feel so deeply connected to someone, like you could share all these things. And now you feel like I'm missing that. And instead you can feel like I actually have 12 relationships and no one is going to replace my significant other, but I still feel connected as a human to other people. And like I have relationships that make me feel loved, even if it's 10% is loved by 10 people.
Yeah.
So I think that personally was something that was very, very helpful as I was recovering from a breakup.
Now for the fun part.
Yeah.
So how do I stop giving up boyfriend vibes on my dates?
So it's so funny. I just talked to my friend about this because he just got out of a serious relationship and he has the exact same question, which is, well, actually, this is a little different, but his question was, I want to go out with these women, but I'm not about casual sex, but I want them to come back with me, but then I feel like I have to sleep with them to make them happy. And your question is, well, I have these women and I want to have sexual relations with them, but I don't want to make them think I'm a boyfriend. And how do I? And with all of these, it's before anything happens that leads them down the path of thinking something about you, like you're going to sleep with them or you're going to be their boyfriend. You just tell them what is actually occurring in your mind. So, for a long time I did open relationships, and it meant before I had ever even kissed someone, normally within the first 20 minutes, I'd be like, what are you looking for in a relationship? And they would share whatever it was, and then they'd say, what are you looking for? I go, well, here's a fun fact about me. I don't date exclusively, and I haven't in 9 years. And they would go, what? And then we have a long conversation, or not long, but like we'd have a conversation about why that is and what that is, and I would immediately not be bucketed as the exclusive boyfriend guy. And then they could choose whether or not they wanted to kiss me, have sex with me, whatever it was, but there would be no confusion on that day about where the relationship was heading. And then depending on how you act, if you act like a very doting boyfriend, even after having said that, ultimately your actions speak louder than your words, and so they'll be convinced that you're going to change your mind. But at least to start, the easiest thing to do is just say, hey, like let's say you're going on a Tinder date, right? And you go on a FaceTime, and the girl's like, hey, what's going on? You're like, oh, hey, it's a blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so after getting some pleasantries out, you go, what are you looking for? And then she says, what are you looking for? And you go, I just got to have a serious relationship. Ultimately, maybe that's what I have in mind, but I don't imagine I'll have a girlfriend again for years. But
looking to date, but I don't want
whatever the
to
truth
jump
is.
into having a girlfriend. Whatever, whatever it is.
And funny enough, people always look at me like I'm insane when I say that I tell people before I even kiss them that I won't date them exclusively, because they think I'm shooting myself in the foot. Some people walk away, but some people actually just appreciate the honesty. And then in their head, they go, is this something that I've never considered, but that could make me happy? I don't know. I'll try it. Whatever it might be, right? What makes people the most upset is if you don't tell them until after something physical has happened, because then they feel tricked. And so to the extent that you don't want a serious relationship, just tell them, and tell them exactly why. And I have often found that what words you say matter so much less than how you say them. So if you just come in comfortable with who you are, comfortable with what you want, and you share that, some people will opt out and some people will opt in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's good at the beginning. One thing that I'll say, and I don't know that you've gotten to the bottom of this riddle, but you put out boyfriend actions. So you'll say early that you don't want it. And I think that is, night one on a date with Charlie, night one on a date with Ben, they'll have the same impression of where it's heading.
Mm-hmm.
Month, I don't know, 2, 3, whatever, of dating Charlie and Ben, there will be still very different impressions. And I think, and we've often talked about how when someone breaks up with me, we tend to remain in contact, or at least friendly. And when someone breaks up with you, it's like scorched earth, been ruined, like, because
not for the last 6 years.
Sure, but
Emily,
yeah,
still would contact me, still would talk to me.
Sure,
I cut that off because I thought the relationship was codependent.
So yes, she expected to marry you. Everyone expects.
Yeah, so did Jess.
That was the one. I would say that all of my other Jess was the anomaly for me. I mean, if you disagree, let me know. But I would say that you put out boyfriend vibes in a way that I tend not to. And I don't. What are the actions that
I make myself seem like I would be a good boyfriend if you could get me? I think that's potentially a difference. I mean, I'll go out on dates or buy presents or whatever it is, such that someone goes, if I could convince this person to be my boyfriend, that would be a good thing for me. And I think one thing you do remarkably is make people interested in you, but also make it very clear, like, that's not going to work out well.
You wouldn't even want this.
Yeah. Seriously. Like, this isn't even, to take this in a different direction would actually just be bad.
Got it.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And I think the specific behaviors are, I don't go on dates or do fun, cute things. I am stubborn in, like, not thoughtful. But all of this to say, like, I'm saying all these negative things. Obviously, people continue to choose to see me because I am, I suppose, fun to hang out with, spend time. Like the casual parts are fun, but when you imagine a longer term commitment, I think it's like, no, that's not what I want forever.
Yeah.
And so
waning for you though. Your last 2 relationships, they both wanted to be with you long term.
Yeah, I think that's just low standards. I don't know. All right, so what else do we have? Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.